I am very grateful to you for the opportunity to appear before you again on these matters, but I know from reading and listening to the media that concerns have been voiced about the interview that I gave to the Sunday Telegraph. And in that interview I made it clear that had I known in July 2009 what I now know, I would have made different decisions. And I expressed quite clearly and publicly my regrets in terms of the impact on those potentially affected as a result. I would be very concerned if in doing this I'm judged to have been in any way disrespectful to this committee or any other committee. That's far from what I'd ever do. But I can assure you all that I have never lied, and all the information that I provided to this committee and others have been given in good faith. And just briefly turning to my expression of regret, I consider the Telegraph article fairly reflects my views on these matters over what was a lengthy and wide-ranging interview. I cannot speak for the first investigation. I know you've got Peter Clark and Andy Hayman following me. However, for my part, in respect to victims, I made it clear to this committee at my last appearance in March that more could have been done regarding those potentially affected.
You've compared this issue to fraud. If, when dealing with a complex case such as fraud, you were faced with a business or an individual showing unwillingness to cooperate, would that not make you somewhat suspicious that they perhaps had something to hide, rather than to accept that you simply couldn't pursue it any further?
I was not only suspicious, I was as certain as I could be that they had something to hide.
What prevented you from taking that further?
The law.
In what sense?
I think it's been explained many times before this committee that there was correspondence entered into between us and News International. The letters that were sent from the Metropolitan Police were put together in consultation with the Crown Prosecution Service. The replies came back through the lawyers acting on behalf of News International. And I know that the people, both from the CPS and from the Met at the time who were looking at this, were very frustrated at finding themselves in what they regarded as a legal impasse.
But had the material been subject to exhaustive analysis, there may have been further grounds to pursue.
As I've said, the only way, given the complete lack of cooperation from News International, the only way to get into this would have been to do an exhaustive analysis of all that material, and I've already explained that because of the range of other life-threatening activity that was going on at the time in terms of terrorist offences, I took the decision that this didn't justify it.
It's just disappointing that for whatever reason, I'm sure you can appreciate, that the unwillingness of potential criminals to cooperate with a criminal investigation meant that prosecutions didn't happen.
I know it sounds a slightly sort of banal point, that would you expect criminals to cooperate with the police? Well, no, of course you don't. But this is slightly different, and I don't mean to be flippant here from someone taking the lead off the church roof. This is a global organisation with access to the best legal advice, in my view, deliberately trying to thwart a criminal investigation.
Mr. Hayman, don't you understand that the public will just see you as a dodgy geezer who was in charge of a phone hacking inquiry conducted by the News of the World, who resigned from the force amongst allegations of expenses claims and allegations of improper conduct with two females, who has told this committee today that you had no knowledge of editors or sub-editors of the Times, while cozying up to the executive level of News International, and amazingly received an award for this investigation?
Not for this investigation, no.
We wouldn't have expected you to receive all that.
Sorry.
Well, apart from that last
I have
bit,
read that. But
can you answer
this is a disaster, this inquiry, an absolute disaster, under your direction.
It's under my watch, it's in my command, absolutely.
Absolutely, it was a disaster.
Well, at the time, and I think Peter's made this point, is that everything possible that they were able to do, given the resources and the parameters that they set, was done. And I stand by that, and Peter has as well.
But now?
Well, what we look right now, it looks very lame. And, but I think what's happened is that we've had more time to do it, more renovations have come out, the News of the World have given us some material that we didn't have at the time. Peter's gone through the detail of the correspondence he had, and he decided, he was frustrated as a result of that correspondence. So, that's where we are.
when I started to describe the scale of the task we've got, because I made this commitment to see everybody, I think I've said there's something like 3,870 names and full first and second names in the database. There are another 5,000 landline telephone numbers and another 4,000 mobile phone numbers. So we've started, and again we had to prioritise the people who'd written in as well as other high-profile people we've seen, and I think I've got how many we've seen. Bear with me. Sorry to refer to the person that's dealing with this on a daily basis, but he tells me 170 people have been informed.
So out of 3,870 names, 5,000 landlines and 4,000 mobiles, 170 have been contacted. So there's a lot more work to be done.
There's an awful lot more work to be done. I can see how that looks. I've explained first of all the months it took to make sure we got the database right.
Certainly understand
we
that.
are distracted by disclosure for civil actions and other things. My commitment remains.
The committee is not
absolutely
being critical at all. We're just making the point.
Okay.
Well, I think it's very sad and disappointing that the case was not dealt with more thoroughly, and all the officers involved feel the same way. Some felt that they should have had more resources, others felt they had lots of other things to do at the time, some had oversight but no responsibility. Mr. Yates was very clear, that he apologised to the victims and for the fact that he was not conducting a thorough inquiry. But where does it go for the future? I hope very much it shows that Sue Akers is determined to see this through. She's got 45 officers with her, there's no question of the resources that she needs, and we've accepted her guarantee, and we've booked her back in 5 years' time to make sure this has happened.
And very briefly, at times in there, the mood was extremely hostile. I've certainly never sat through a committee session like it. Do you think the relationship between senior police officers at the Met and politicians is now damaged because of everything that's happened?
Well, I think it's this particular case. I think they were very concerned about it, and you're absolutely right. I've chaired this committee for 4 years. I've never seen members of the committee so angry and upset, and I think they're reflecting the anger and upset of the victims and of the public. And now we will prepare our report and publish it very shortly.